Thank you for joining us on Newsweek as we highlight some top stories we've been following in the last 7 days. Now, this week, 1 incident, 5 casualties and 2 investigation panels on circumstances that led to the death of undercover policemen in Taraba State. Also, the agitation and call for a revolution that didn't take off as planned. Now we'll begin with the story of the killing of police officers by soldiers in Taraba State, where a manhunt is also on for the kidnapped kingpin who was set free on Wednesday. Well, our correspondent Sifonesen has been following the story and gives an overview.
2 panels are investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of Inspector Mike Ediale, Sergeants Dahiru Musa and Usman Danzumi. The members of the intelligence response team of the Nigeria Police and another civilian whose identity is yet to be revealed by the police met death on Tuesday following an encounter with troops of the 93rd Battalion of the Nigerian Army, Takum, along the Ibi-Wukari Road in Taraba State. The investigating teams, the first led by a Deputy Inspector General of Police, Mike Obizi, and the second led by a Rear Admiral, Ibikunle Olaiya, have begun gathering evidence at the scene of the incident. The panel led by the DIG has Abba Kiari, head of the IRT, as member, while the 7-member panel led by the Rear Admiral has members drawn from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, DSS, and the Defense Intelligence Agency.
It's a very unfortunate incident. We just hope that this panel will be able to take their time, investigate this case properly, and if anybody is found wanting, irrespective of their status, they should be made to face the full wrath of the law.
My call to the government is they should ensure that the needful is done. No matter how placed the person is, those that are involved should be brought to book.
Well, I think this is a trying moment for the new law in Taraba State, since there is now a new law concerning kidnapping, which is death sentence, and another one just happened. And so the people of Taraba are expecting to see drastic action being taken on this very issue.
The time frame and the terms of reference for the investigating teams are yet to be disclosed. But what is known is that investigators may have to answer the questions posed by the police authorities. The questions are: where is the notorious kidnapper Hamisu Wadume? How could a kidnap suspect restrained with handcuffs escape from the hands of the military? Why were the police operatives shot at close range after they had identified themselves? Other questions are: how and why was Hamisu Wadume released by the soldiers? And if Hamisu Wadume is a kidnap victim as claimed, why was he not taken to the army base for documentation and debriefing? The team led by the Deputy Inspector General of Police on Saturday met behind closed doors with the governor of Taraba State. While the investigations are on, the police are still mourning the death of their colleagues killed in the line of duty. In the wee hours of Sunday, just as Muslims were preparing to celebrate Eid, the bodies of the IRT operatives arrived at the morgue of the police hospital in Garki, Abuja. The death count is now 5, 3 policemen and 2 civilians. We were told that the 2 investigating teams would eventually have to merge their findings in getting to the root of the killings. Sifonesen, TVC News, Abuja.
Indeed, too many questions raised in this matter, but let's get more perspectives on this as I have joining me here in the studio Tony Dania, lawyer and human rights activist, while from Abuja I have Mike Ejiofor, former director of the Department of State Services, and on Skype, Sifonesen, TVC News defense correspondent. It's good to have you all, gentlemen, on the program this evening. So, Sifon, let's begin with you. Earlier, you reported the bodies of the slain police officers are undergoing autopsy and the death toll of those killed have risen to 5. Now, what is the latest at the moment?
Well, just as you mentioned, the death toll or the count is now 5, 3 IRT operatives and 2 civilians at the morgue of the police hospital in Garki, and the police are collecting evidence. We gather that they have credible evidence, talking about the panel set up and led by the DIG, Mike Obizi, as to what could have led to the death of these operatives and these civilians.
And tell us more about the investigating teams. What are they doing to unravel the incident?
Well, the teams now, as you mentioned in the intro, one case, two investigating panels. They have gotten to the scene of the incident, collected evidence, spoken with members of the community. Just yesterday, Saturday, the team led by the DIG also had a closed-door meeting with the governor of Taraba State, and that has also helped investigation. And they've also explored other leads, in unraveling these incidents that we can confirm.
Now, Tony, from what we've understood now, there are too many questions being asked on what is really happening. But what are your expectations from the investigating teams?
Oh, well, there are certain facts we cannot run away from. Circumstantially, and as a lawyer that have handled criminal matters, it is obvious that the soldiers who shot the policemen were not acting on any design by the army. And I must also say that means they are not in any way acting on the instruction of the federal government. They went on a frolic of their own. It must be noted that these policemen that were slain are the same policemen that apprehended the alleged notorious kingpin Evans. They have also saved a monarch from the dens of kidnappers. They are well trained. The soldiers are also trained in engagement. When they approach the vehicle conveying the alleged kidnapping with the policemen were armed, and they are on their camouflage that have the police emblem. So there was absolutely no need to have shot at them. That is number one. Number two, what happened, just like Frank Kuba asked, what happened to the victim if the military or the army are called on distress on a civil offense like kidnapping? The first thing that should do naturally is to reach the police. We have been called for social reason. They did not reach the police. Two, when you get to the scene of crime, you don't kill. Even though they are trained to kill naturally and to defend, you don't just kill. This is a civilian offense. Kidnapping is a civilian offense, not a military offense. So when you get there, you demobilize everybody.
Now, according to the army statement, it says that the people, they thought that the police officers were kidnappers because they were not wearing uniforms.
It's unfortunate that Sagi, the public relations image maker of the army, could go on like that. It's very wrong of him. You cannot justify what is not justifiable. It will make Nigerians to be angry. We are supposed to see a close relationship between all these security agencies and the masses. And then when you keep talking, in order to justify an incident, you just go on air like that. If we didn't see the video clips and we didn't see the facts coming together, we would have believed him. Okay, if you are out to assist a kidnapped victim, do you just go and shoot people at close range? We saw the video clips. I saw it. It was posted around. And the good thing about social media is that people use their phone most of the time. It brings me, sorry to digress a little bit, to the issue of the naval rating that were said to have also killed somebody in Aja Aziz 3 days ago, torturing him. What this military agency are supposed to do, anytime there's an incident like this, you quickly identify those involved, do your debriefing or do whatever preliminary investigation you want to do fast, and hand them over to the police.
All right, point taken there. Now, Mike, from what we see so far, what are your thoughts on this development and that has seemed to, pit the Nigerian police force against the army?
Well, I'm happy the last speaker made very valid statement. And to me, as an investigator, without prejudice to the outcome of the investigation set up by the federal government, which I also don't have confidence in, because majority of the people at the defense headquarters are from the military. You cannot be a judge in your own case. So the fact remains that two issues are out clearly. Who are the perpetrators of this dastardly act? They must be identified. 2, where is the kidnap suspect that was in possession of the police before they were shot? So as long as these 2 issues are not addressed, we are just rigmaroling. It's quite unfortunate that this should be happening. Like the lawyer in your studio there said, these same people did not act on behalf of the army or the army authority. That's why I'm also surprised that the military should come out in their defense without looking into the details of what actually transpired. So it's a very big challenge, and I hope this does not degenerate into a confrontation between the military and the army.
From what Tony also pointed out, this is really a sad incident, but from your own perspective now, many have attributed this bizarre incident to, well, poor communication gap between the security agencies. What do you think will be the likely implications and consequences?
Well, I don't think it's a lack of communication. I believe in my own as a person that the perpetrators of this act were acting on their own. I believe in this conspiracy theory, trying to protect the well-known kidnap. This is not the first time in Nigeria that is happening, that security agencies are protecting criminals. In fact, when I was kidnapped, I did mention that some military personnel were involved in my kidnap. 4 of them out of the 12 were serving personnel from my own investigation. And that's why it becomes a very big problem that we are fighting this war, and you have enemies within. If you don't identify the enemies within, it becomes a greater problem to fight the scourge.
Point taken there, enemies within. Tony Daniel, what is the possibility that this matter will find the light of day in terms of justice? Do you think justice will be served and the matter not swept under the carpet?
This matter will not be easily swept under the carpet, no matter what the military will do here, because 1, the masses are already involved and they are interested. 2, you will ultimately, constitutionally, it is the police that should investigate this. So you will ultimately still come back to the police. This window dressing thing they call panels and all that, whatever investigation they do is only administrative. They will still come back to the police. The police will investigate. And that's how it should be. The police also investigate policemen that are involved in extrajudicial killing. I know of some policemen that are still serving in prison that I was involved in the matter practically. So there is nothing we can do. Justice will be done. Unless, if the army is not careful, it will give the room or make masses to start suspecting that these acts were ordered by the army officially. Whereas what we had, subject without prejudice to the investigation the panels are doing, the matter is not yet in court, so one is free to give his opinion. What we had was that the captain who is in charge of the roadblocks ordered that the kidnapping be rescued. That's what we had. And now we also heard that the army have already arrested those involved. Like I said, I don't want to preempt this. This is subject to clarification anyway. If that is done, that is fine. They will ultimately hand over to the police, and there is no way the police can also cover this. They have lost men that were trained by the federal government in act of tracking and arresting. The police have really lost a lot of people. And this brings me to the issue of welfare of the police. Sorry that I'm digressing. Now, are you aware that a police will serve for 35 years? And at the end, no matter how senior that police is, it doesn't get more than 10 million, 5 million as total entitlement. I am aware of this because I prosecute some matters for the police. So it is very wrong. The federal government should visit this. It is time for them to look at the welfare of the police. And now you want the police to fight crime. You are not making provision for the wherewithal for them to fight this crime. This is very, very wrong. The police are, even some of the soldiers too, they are not well taken care of. But the police are worth it.
All right.
Yes.
Point taken there, Tony. But I still have my guests with me after this break. After this, we need to come back. Tony, Mike, and Sifon will be back, where we have more concerning the agitation and the call for a revolution that didn't kick off as planned. That's coming up after this. Stay with us. Another big story we followed this week is the Revolution Now protests convened by presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore. Well, the plan to hold ground in 20 states of the Federation as for many days as possible came to an end in less than 24 hours. Sifon Nesen also reports.
These protesters defied the rain to stage a protest to the office of the National Human Rights Commission in Abuja.
We must also say that we have submitted a petition.
The hashtag Revolution Now protesters draw attention to what they call the failings of the federal government and the desire for a better life for the people.
There are just a few of them that actually staged the walk, but they've made their voices heard and they have submitted their complaints to the National Human Rights Commission.
The reason we are here today is to demonstrate our remonstrance with the failings of government.
I think what you can always do is to do a follow-up of any complaints you felt that has not been well treated. Okay, so it is obvious that there are issues of violations across the board, across the country, and this we are systematically handling.
The detention of the publisher of the online newspaper Sahara Reporters is among the reasons for the protests. Omoyele Sowore is being held by the secret police for instigating the Revolution Now protests.
People are getting kidnapped and killed every day there. You can't travel from one part of the country to the other without somebody shooting you on the way or kidnapping you or robbing you. The solution has gone beyond stock shops. Nigerians must gather themselves together, bond together, and instigate a revolution. That is the only thing that can solve the problem in this country.
What kind of revolution are you talking about?
It is going to be determined by situational variables. People will determine what will happen during and after the revolution. It is not for me to tell you. Typically, it's even the government that decides how deep or how long or how fast the revolution will take. So you don't worry about that. You can leave that for us after the date. But let me announce here that starting from August 5th, a group known as Coalition for Revolution will be shutting down Nigeria. And we've had over 20 cities sign up to that particular mode of action. It's called Days of Rage, and our hashtag is Revolution Now.
Whether Sowore is with the DSS or not, the answer is emphatic, is in the affirmative. Yes, he's with us. And why is he with us? He has crossed the lines. He has threatened public safety. Sowore has, as a matter of fact, threatened the peaceful coexistence, social harmony of Nigeria. Someone is calling for revolution in Nigeria. And what is revolution? Primarily, it means a revolt. It means an insurrection. It means insurgency. It means forceful takeover of government. And this is a democracy. Nigeria operates a democratic system.
A statement by a media aide to the president kicked against the revolution and emphasized that a democratically elected government can only be changed through the ballot. In the 2019 presidential election, Omoyele Sowore's African Action Congress Party polled a total of 33,953 votes to come 10th among parties that contested. In a bid to counter the Revolution Now demonstration, these pro-government protesters converged on the Unity Fountain to throw their weight behind the government.
Nigerians do not need revolution of any sort at this moment. To say to Nigerians that President Muhammadu Buhari is laying a solid foundation for our great-grandchildren.
But one thing clear is that issues raised during the demonstrations are not going away anytime soon. Sifon Nesen, TVC News.
Well, I still have my guests, Tony Daniel, lawyer and human rights activist in Abuja, Mike Ejiofor, former Director, Department of State Services, and on Skype, Sifon Nesen, the TVC News defense correspondents, to all bring their thoughts to bear on this matter. Sifon, let's begin with you now. Last week, former presidential candidate and convener of Revolution Now, Omoyele Sowore, filed a suit challenging a court order which permitted the DSS to detain him for 45 days. Now, give us insights into what we are likely to expect in the coming week.
What we're likely to expect in the coming week is that he would likely be kept in detention. And the court said that if upon the expiration of 45 days, which is September the 21st, the DSS needs more time and extension to facilitate investigation, it should approach the court with another application. That gives us an indication of the direction to which the court has swung in favor of the state against Sowore in this case. Although Sowore fighting back, requesting for the expediting of action in this matter does not seem to have caught the attention of the court as yet. What we know is that Revolution Now, yes, the day of rage was held for about a day. Several other persons were arrested and tried at several magistrate courts across the country. After that, everybody, to your tent, as they would say it, O Israel, was the aftermath of what has happened. Nothing much is now being said in the aftermath of that, Revolution Now protests or demonstrations and across the streets in Nigeria.
Yeah, indeed, like you said, the Revolution Now didn't last more than a day. But how likely do you think supporters of this cause will re-strategize and will head back to the streets?
It's not clear what strategy they would adopt, considering the fact that the matter is now before the courts. So the attention now should be on sticking to whatever the court says, and taking all legal actions necessary to either get Sowore off the hook or prosecute the government for keeping him beyond the stipulated time. But of course, 45 days, the court has said in the first instance, and extension of days to allow the state or Department of State conclude investigation in this matter. That's what we have just seen, and it doesn't seem that any other thing other than what the court has decided would happen, except before the 45 days, the DSS would approach the court and says they've concluded investigation. And for that reason, he will be charged for whatever offenses. That likely may not happen in this case.
Now, Mike, let's come to you now. One of the reasons given by the police to stall the protest was that the group didn't get a police permit. So from your observation, what are your thoughts on this, and what kind of protest do you think can be considered as treasonable?
Well, for now, based on the Supreme Court judgment, you don't need any permit to carry out a protest. But the fact remains that the threat from Sowore was likely to jeopardize the peace of this country. He called it Revolution Now, and if you heard what the SSS spokesperson talked about, revolution is about change, a forceful change of government. Some people will tell you this is just the literal meaning of it. I agree, but when you talk of day of rage and that SSS will not be in existence anymore, would any responsible government fold his hands and just watch Sowore overrun the country? What I look at is that he wants to get what he didn't get through the ballot box, through the back door. How many votes did you are intro there? You talk about 3,000 votes. And he has over 100 million, according to him, his claim, he has over 100 million people following him in the Revolution Now. How many people came out that day? He has a right to demonstrate, to ask for his rights and the right of every other Nigerian, but not to the extent of threatening the peace of this country. So that's why I have to disagree with him in his mood. We've had issues in this country where people talked about Save Nigeria, 1 million man march. Nobody stopped them from doing that. But when you talk about revolution, changing a government that is in place, that is unacceptable. And that must be, we believe that this country is governed by laws.
All right, point taken there, Mike. Now, let's wrap up the show with you, Tony. What are your thoughts on Sowore's arguments so far that he's been detained for more than 45 days as against his fundamental human rights by the courts? What are your thoughts?
Let me first of all start by saying that Sowore was a presidential candidate, And if every presidential candidate that contested and lost is doing the same thing, imagine how the country would be. Atiku has all it takes to do this kind of protest, but he rather went to court. What I expect, Atiku has the money and the clout to do this, but he went to court to challenge the result declared by INEC. That is number one. Number two, I listened to Sowore saying that the masses will come together and instigate a revolution.
You have less than 30 seconds.
Wow, revolution literally meaning, like the last speaker said, is taking government by force. But I think in this case it was used metaphorically to mean changing. We are all aware of the issues in the country. We have talked about them and all that, but we must look for a legitimate way of going about it. Then the allegation is treasonable felony. Okay. Whether it is correct or wrong, it is left for the court to decide.
All right.
And then the judge that gave that order acted within the law regarding to the proceedings in court. Don't forget that it was an ex parte, which means they were only listening to the case of the DSS.
Okay,
and the allegation was treasonable felony. Treasonable felony is a heinous offense.
And that's a fine place to leave it right now because of time. I'd like to thank all my guests, Tony Dania, Michael Jofo, and Sifonisi, and thank you all for your time on the show tonight. And that's all for this episode of This News Week. You can follow us on our social media platforms for updates. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram using the handle at TVCNewsNG. You can also get details of all the stories we're reporting on our website, tvcnews.tv. Until the next one, I am Esther Mopariola. Bye for now.